Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unfound Podcast Channel on YouTube. I'm, of course, Unfound's host, Ed Denzel. We're in a little bit of a hiatus period here at the beginning of January, beginning of 2025, due to, I wouldn't call them big health issues, but small health issues that I think if I were working on the podcast and everything, would not be able to do it 100%. So that is why I've decided to take a little time off. And hopefully this time will not last too long. But given this Friday, actually tomorrow, I'm going to be re-releasing the disappearance of Ben Charles Padilla, that episode, the original recording going way back to 2016, I discovered that I never did do a map video for his disappearance. And given that this happened over in Africa, maybe I should have done that at some point over the past 8 years. So I'm going to do that right now. So on the screen, you can see the country of Angola. That is right there on the Atlantic Ocean. You can see it right there. Zooming out. Whoa, big time zoom. Right there. And if you were in South America and went directly east across the Atlantic Ocean, you would run into Angola. And the airport where this all occurred is in the capital, which is Luanda, which is right there. So let me zoom in on that. And as you can see, it is right on the coast. And I think that that really has to be considered when you think about this disappearance of Ben and whoever was with him and this jet. So the story goes is that Ben had been over there. He'd been working airplane mechanic. He was working on this Boeing 727, which is a jet that is still used today, but at least in the United States, they really don't use it for passenger travel anymore. It's not the most efficient jet. Of course, it has 3 engines, and as you probably know, most jets today can get away with just 2 engines, 737, 757, 767, 777s, of course, with Boeing, and then Airbus A320, etc. Very few jets these days have more than 2. Of course, we still have the Boeing 747. We still have the Airbus A380. And I think there is another Airbus jet that has 4 engines. But 727s in the United States have not been used for passenger travel for a while, although they are still used for cargo. So something to remember. So back in 2003, Ben's over there. And something goes on. That's for all of you to decide what actually was going on that day, that evening. And he and at least one other guy got on this jet and closed up the doors and took off. Now, I think what's important to remember, of course, as the sightings go, that, and let's see if we can get the actual Luanda airport on there so we can see exactly where that is. All right, so we're gonna. Now, what airport was it? That's a good question here. I think it was the one over here. Let me just check something very quickly. Let's go to my friend Megan Goods. Megan Linez's website. He was at the Di Favario airport. So this is one. This is the right one right here. So one closest to the coast. And the story goes that this jet took off and went in a northwest direction. Now, how is that? Neither of these, it looks like these runways go in a northwest direction, and I don't even know which runway it would have been. But Witnesses say it took off in northwest direction, which of course is going to take it out over the ocean. And we have to start thinking, is this some sort of suicide trip? We don't know. But it's not hard to imagine that maybe they were thinking about stealing it and they got out over the ocean, figured out, what are we doing here? And spatial disorientation or whatever else, and they crashed into the sea, never to be seen again. And the jet is somewhere out here in the ocean if anybody wants to try and go look for it. Of course, the issue is that it doesn't seem like any parts or anything ever washed up on shore in Africa or anywhere else. So something to remember. But this jet took off in northwest direction. Where if we're to think that the plan was to use it for trafficking, then we have to start looking at what was mentioned in the interview regarding countries like Kenya, Ethiopia. But you have to understand something. All of those, Somalia, all of those countries are way over here on the other side of Africa. So Angola's over here, and we have to go the whole way over here to almost into the Middle East to get to those countries. You can see Somalia here, Kenya here, Djibouti. The capital of Djibouti is Djibouti. It's a fantastic trivia question. But these are some of the countries that have been mentioned when the taking of this jet, has been the topic of conversation. And the story, if we're to believe it, is that jets, maybe even to this day, unlicensed, unregistered, go into the Middle East for back and forth, maybe taking workers, I should call them slaves. Either they're taking them from Africa to take them over into the Middle East, or taking people from the Middle East to bring them over to Africa. Once again, undocumented, illegal, under the cover of darkness, however you want to put it. Of course, a very, very, very illegal operation that was going on. And you should know, if we want to look back at, like, for example, the World Cup in 2022, you have to remember that at least part of the facilities that were built there in that country in the Middle East were built with slave labor from Africa, if you didn't know that. So it's something that still goes on. And the belief is that maybe this jet was going to be used by that. Now, how are they, it seems like a lot of work to take those tanks, these diesel tanks, back out of it to put people in them. I don't know. But you just have to remember, if that was the plan and they were successful, they would have had to have flown it from way over here on the west side of Africa and somehow made it the whole way across here to the east side of Africa. Of course, remembering that although Ben was familiar with 727s, he was not a licensed pilot for them. And whether it was one other guy or two other guys that were with him, I don't think they were qualified to pilot, because remember, it's more than just getting the jet up in the air. You have to be able to navigate the whole way across this continent. How are you going to do that? Who are you going to contact? You have to know how to use the radios and everything else. It's more than just keeping the plane in the air. But maybe that happened. This jet got stolen and it ended up somewhere in East Africa. So I just wanted to show you that. That's really all I have for you regarding this. But if you don't know where Angola is and you don't know where some of these other countries are that were mentioned, Somalia, Kenya, Ethiopia, all over the Sudan, all of this, then I thought maybe I should do this video for you. As far as what I think happened, it sounds pretty extravagant to me that these guys could have pulled this off and gotten over there. Now, granted, because of the poverty in Africa, they do not have the jet tracking system that we do here in the United States. Of course, most countries and continents don't have that. So it's certainly conceivable technologically that they could have avoided radar and all of that. And some of these countries in between, like South Sudan, Central Africa Republic, the rest of them, they could have flown through the airspace, and maybe these countries didn't even know what was going on. That's certainly conceivable and possible. The issue is that these guys using radios and transponders and everything else to try to get over. And then, of course, on top of everything else, they have to safely land this jet. That might have been the plan. They just didn't pull it off. It might have been that they crashed shortly after takeoff. So there you go. That is the map analysis for the disappearance of Ben Charles Padilla. And I know some people in the past, Ed, it's Padilla. I'm just going by what Tim Wright said in the interview. He's the one that has spoken to Ben's family, and that's how he pronounces the last name. So that's what I'm going to do. So there you go. Thank you for watching. It's nice to do another video for the first time in a while. Hopefully I can get back to doing some of these. And of course, I hope to be doing new podcast episodes shortly, but I'm not going to do that until I believe that mentally and physically I can give it 100%. Thanks for watching. Please share this video. Please subscribe to this channel. Talk to you again soon.